2024 was the year of the dry podcast. 2025 is the year of the very dribbly one. So
Saliva beats. That's the next music phase as well.
Beautiful, much better. Definitely don't have
You
snot
can
in my
really
mustache
vibe
now.
That's how I want people to, when people talk about football manager therapy, it's a very, very moist podcast.
Moist and dry.
It's a weird combination. It's hard to
like
say
an
that
old
without...
cake in a rainstorm.
Hello there, friends, and welcome back to another episode of Football Manager Therapy. I am your host, Rich Owens, and joining me this week, two wonderful human beings. We have the returning D-Boy Plays, and we have making his first team debut this calendar year, Steaky Bloody Bakety. He's back. He's back. You can't see. We're pointing to him. If you're listening to this, but not watching this, we're pointing to him here. Steaky, how are you, my friend? It's been a hot minute.
It has. It's been a long time. We've lost a podcast member since I was last on. Christmas and New Year has gone. We're in a completely different year. It's ridiculous. I've been very, very ill and then very busy over Christmas. So I have recovered mostly. I'm sure it will be fine. I'm sure I won't randomly start coughing and hurt everyone's ears. And I do apologize for the slightly more nasal voice that you will get on this week's podcast. But other than that, I am well. How about yourself, Rich?
Oh, all the better for having you back, Steaky. All the better for having you back. It's been weird without you, and it just goes. You can't have any more time off because, as you say, we lose members of the team. Things go awry. It just all gets a little bit weird. Jeb and I just make ourselves sad playing just angry video games. We need you. We need balance. That's what we need. Absolute balance. Dee, how are you, pal? Lovely to see you. Lovely to have you in.
Lovely to see both of you chaps as well. And I'm looking for the sake of the audio listeners. Yeah, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm good. Started work again this week, and it was fine. That's my review of work. It was fine. But yeah, I'm doing good. I was just thinking while you were saying over how long it's been since, it's been a couple of weeks, hasn't it, since you've been on stake? Managers have been 4 managers have been sacked, and 3 of them have been replaced. In your time away in real life football as well. And the one that hasn't been replaced is the one at my blooming club, which is really annoying.
Are you still managerless at the Albion?
Yeah. At time of record, West Brom are still managerless. I'm even wearing a Valencia shirt as well in honour of Carlos as well. So he's gone there. I miss him already.
Oh, bless. I know David Moyes is back at Everton.
Yeah,
wild. Seen that one
live.
Did anyone have that on their 2025 bingo cards? I didn't.
Absolutely not. But I'm here for it. You wait till he re-signs Marouane Fellaini as well. That's now we're talking. That's what I want to see. Massive Belgian midfielders just running around the Everton.
Stephen Pienaar back on the wing as well.
Yes,
team.
Bit of Leon Osman. Oh yeah, maybe even a Tim Cahill. That's what the Premier League needs.
This is how we're cooking.
Now we're doing. Now we're on
will
fire.
Be pleased.
He'll be absolutely delighted. Barclaysman. There we go. That's what it's all about today. That's what it's all about today. Leon Osman. Now we're talking. Mappy now we've talked about Leon Osman. Didn't expect to start the podcast with that, if I'm completely honest with you, but I don't hate it by any stretch of the imagination. Really don't hate it.
That was our mini derailing.
I liked it though. It was a friendly one. It was less of a derailing, more of a we've got to stop the train for a minute. There are some leaves on the track ahead, so we just need to make sure they're dry so we can just over them rather than risk slipping off because of wet. Is that what happens? I don't know enough about trains.
I think that's what is implied.
That's not true. Actually,
trains derail. That's the real question here, isn't it?
If there's one thing I'd probably too, specifically Thomas the Tank Engine, as people I work with learned this week to their, they were quite unhappy with me because of tangents. And I was naming engines, names, colours. Oh my goodness gracious me.
And what is your favourite Thomas the Tank Engine character, Rich?
What an excellent question, Steaky. Thank you for asking.
Finally, this podcast He's touching the real
Finally,
subjects.
198 episodes in, and we're asking the real questions. I've always had a bit of a soft spot for Edward, engine number 2. You know, because he's,
Interesting.
you know, I like a bit of Edward. You know, because he wasn't all about the limelight. Edward, he was just a solid worker. That's what I liked about him. He was just there to do his job. He wasn't there to hog the limelight. He wasn't a Thomas. He wasn't a Gordon or a Henry or a James. Wasn't one of those lads. He just turned up, did his job, went home again, and you have to respect that. You have to respect it.
He wasn't full of himself, was he?
No,
not like,
wasn't full of
you know,
himself.
Just
There was an
hard
episode. Do you remember when Henry got bricked up in a tunnel just because he was just
I was thinking about it the whole time we've been talking about it.
he was just being a bit of a nuisance. So the Fat Controller just bricked him up in a tunnel.
Yeah,
Those,
just imprisoned him.
yeah. Sometimes I wonder where my fear of authority figures comes from, and I think it all just comes back to that. It's like
The Fat Controller has terrified many of us.
absolutely has. Look, be good, or you're getting bricked up in the tunnel for a couple of years. Okay. Children.
Was he in there for a couple of years?
I feel like it was a long time. I mean, you could make the compelling argument that any length of time is too long to be bricking
Yeah,
people up in tunnels just
you're
because they
absolutely
were
right.
being a little bit cheeky. But here we are.
Just didn't like
Here
the
we are.
rain. He just didn't like the rain. That's
He
all it
just
was.
Just didn't like it. Well, there's no rain in tunnels. Maybe he thought he was doing him a favour. Get in there. It's dry. Stay in there.
It was like
for a
some
while.
sort of fear factor level therapy. Just lock him up in a tunnel and then they'll cure him. You know.
I mean, in the original versions of the books, you know, he got Stockholm syndrome. He didn't want to leave the tunnel. He grew to love the tunnel. It's like, it's really nice in here.
There we go. That's the derailing that we needed.
There it is. There we go. Now we've derailed
And that was
it.
our tribute to Britt Allcroft, who passed away over the Christmas period. Very sad. The original Thomas Tank Engine writer. She.
Did she?
Yeah,
Oh, well, there
she
you
did
go.
indeed.
There you go. I miss Ringo Starr narrating it as well. I miss Ringo Starr narrating Thomas.
Definitely.
Who would be? But look, this is a Football Manager podcast. This is all staying in, just so we're all aware.
Yeah.
Because look, a very good question was asked before we went live, which we're going to ask later on in the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Here's my question for the two of you.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked previously on the podcast about, you know, and we talked about it when we did the network save one evening, the Back to the Future paradox, in the sense that if they made Back to the Future now and traveled back the same number of years they did in the original film, they would be traveling back to 1995, which is just terrifying. Like, that's 30 years ago. It's disgusting, isn't it? Obviously, when Thomas the Tank Engine was made, Ringo Starr narrated it. Who would be, if they were to start Thomas the Tank Engine again now, who would be the modern pop star equivalent of Ringo Starr you would like to hear narrating Thomas the Tank Engine, or a children's TV show in general?
Oh,
That is a fantastic question.
it's got to be someone with a good voice, like just day to day.
My immediate go-to is Matt Berry.
Oh yes, what an answer!
My
What an
immediate
answer.
go-to. Matt Berry reading everything.
Father! said Thomas.
Said Thomas as he went through the tunnel. Yeah. What a man. What a man.
If I could do an impression, he really would be.
Fantastic, wouldn't it?
It'd be
The
best
most
one.
useful engine on the island of Sodor. Oh, yeah, perfect. Absolutely perfect. There we go, Matt Berry. I don't think we can top that. It's just Matt.
No.
Matt Berry is the correct answer. Matt,
go.
if you're listening, make some phone calls to the right people. I would very much like to hear you narrating Thomas the Tank Engine, because you know straight away he'd be very. He wouldn't stand for any nonsense. He wouldn't stand for any nonsense.
No.
We don't really swear a lot on this podcast, but you know, I was tempted to drop one there just for Matt Berry. Just he would drop the F-bomb about Percy. You know he would.
If there's anyone that deserves it, it's Percy.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, Percy. Rat. Worst train going. Absolute worst train going. Good. What a start. I'm proud
How long
of
are we
us.
into the episode?
We're about 10 minutes in. Football Manager, lads.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shall
yeah. Should probably speak about that at some point.
Probably should work our way over to the more FM side of things, I suppose, shouldn't we? I'm gonna look. We've wildly speculated about Matt Berry which is just perfect. It's the perfect answer to that question. I have questions for the two of you, or more discussion points, I suppose. Obviously, we're now well into the year 2025. FM25 is, at the time of recording, as far as we are still aware, due to be released in March. So we're a couple of months out. I suppose, given the fact that we are, let's say 8 weeks away from, hypothetically, give or take, from the release of FM25, it's probably not going to be too long before we start to hear a few little bits and pieces of information kind of, coming out of SI about FM25. I suppose I'll open it up to the room in terms of what we're seeing from SI, or what we are expecting, hoping to see released from them in terms of news, in terms of updates on how everything is going with FM25. What do we want to see? What are we expecting to see? And realistically speaking, when are you hoping to see it? Steak, I saw your hands clasped together. What do you want? Go on. If you could get anything out of SI right now, what do you want to see? What are you hoping for? What's getting you giddy?
The word something now, please, just anything, please, something, comes to mind immediately. Dan was saying a very similar thing before the podcast. And I feel like there's been a long time now where we've not really had anything. I think it was roughly a month ago, at the start of December, when we had the Football Manager will be continuing until March. Football Manager 2024 will be continuing until March on all the Xbox Game Pass. And that was the last post we kind of really had from SI, really. And that's not really news, is it? Just to say kind of the game's still going to be there. So I would like something. Ideally, I think the main thing that people will be talking about straight away is we want to see some match engine. Match engine has been the hot point. We've not seen any of it so far. Not a hint, not a TV clip, not a fractal in a preview video. Absolutely nothing. And I would just like to see something on the match engine lines, just so we can see that they're heading in the right direction, that something's happening down at SI, because we love SI here. Like we talk very regularly about how we know a lot of people that are involved in making of the game. We've had people that have made the game on the podcast before. We are often the voice of SI know what they're doing. Let them do what they're doing, and everything will be fine in the end. It's just getting to that stage where I'm starting to be like, yeah, but you do have to tell us something at some point. And I think that's my main concern right now, is the fact that we are on a long radio silence, and I would like to see something. Please, please, please.
I would take something. I'd be delighted with something. I think something would be good. Anything would be nice at the moment. It's a tricky one, I think, from SI's perspective, just in terms of the fact that the reaction to a lot of their recent posts about any form of updates has been quite angry. I don't think there's not been a huge amount of information they've released recently that has been met well by a lot of the player base. And I think, we've had this discussion before, haven't we? As the player base has grown, it kind of moves past, there's that core player base. I think because of how good the game is and has been over the last few years, especially, it's attracted a wider audience. It's attracted that more casual player base. And with that comes not the lack of understanding, I suppose, but there's less patience, I think is the nicest way of putting it. I think there's less patience from a lot of the wider player base now. And, I've made comparisons before to, the way that people respond to things from companies like EA, for example. When you look at anything goes wrong with a game like EAFC or FIFA, the instant reaction to that is, "Oh, how dare you?" And I think a bit of that's been creeping in recently with SI and with Football Manager. So in terms of what's being released, in terms of information that's coming out, on the one hand, I do feel like they are being understandably cautious in terms of, when information is coming out, what they are releasing first. I think that's a much more difficult decision for them. But flip side of that coin, I think we're in a place now where we need something to work on. We need something to go off. And it wouldn't surprise me at all that when that information comes out, I think the reaction will be positive, because, something is better than nothing. But we just need it. I think they have to be very, very clever about what it is they decide they're going to release first, what that first piece of information is going to be. Like I say, those first screenshots, those first videos, the first, even if they were to announce a new roadmap, for example, what comes out first, I think, is going to be vitally important in terms of essentially buying back a little bit of good grace from the player base, because I think they don't necessarily have carte blanche like I think they would have had previously in terms of announcing updates, changes to the game. In terms of when that information was released, I don't think they have that as much anymore. So it's a difficult one, but I would like to see something. I'm with you on that one, Steaky, for sure.
Yeah.
Just anything. Just anything. But I get where you're coming from as well. It does seem like there's been some caution with posting about anything, because we all sat and read through the threads of comments on X, and it was an incredibly depressing time looking at the community. Some of the community being great, and then some of the community being incredibly toxic and horrible, and you think, it just made me think that you're speaking to people in a way that you really shouldn't be, and you're making just the wildest claims about stuff, and it was infuriating. But yeah, we do need something. I think roadmap is a very good. It would even just an updated roadmap to be like, here's what to expect. We've said the game's coming out in late March. Here's what we're going to do. End of Feb, you're going to see this. And these are going to be the things leading up to the game. Bish, bash, bosh. And then we can all go, okay, something to look forward to. Because I think, again, it's something we speculate a little bit. There does seem like there's a little bit of FM fatigue kicking in. Obviously, I think Jeb's felt it quite a lot recently. He's found it very hard to want to play the game. I think you maybe a little bit as well, Steak, in terms of wanting to play stuff. I even feel it, and I think I stream the most out of all of us. I stream FM like four days a week for, I'm probably doing maybe 15, 16 hours a week. And I even sit there, and whilst I'm doing it, I'm thinking the stream isn't about FM, but that's why people are there. Because we're all playing the game and hanging out. But even I'm just sort of going through the motions a little bit, and I need something that's going to make me go, right, I'm ready for a bit of fun. So yeah, anything roadmap would be cool.
And I think when that information starts to come out, I think it will have a very, very positive impact.
Yes.
Genuinely, I think in terms of, and I think FM fatigue is a wonderful phrase, and I think it's very, very accurate, because I think we've all been feeling it. If you look back to, just before the announcement was made that they were going to be delaying the game, we saw there were the screenshots, for example, from, was it the Tokyo Game Show, where there were a few little bits and pieces. We saw a couple of screenshots from that. They were kind of floating about online, and everyone's like,
the frog, Jesus,
the big frog, the massive FM frog. That's why it's delayed. They're cloning him in a lab. They're making a real one. He's going to be so wet, such a wet mascot.
Oh, no.
But everyone you see that and you go, yes, something new. And you get that little bit of like, we had the FIFA World Cup, a few months back, and suddenly off the back of that, bang, 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 everyone's like, yes, Football Manager. Isn't Football Manager brilliant? God, I want to play loads of Football Manager. And then announcements, lack of information, and you go from the top of that roller coaster. It's like playing Roller Coaster Tycoon. You've built the roller coaster incorrectly, and you've gone all the way up, and then you go tick, 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 down instead of whoa. You need to, if you're not watching, you need to watch that bit for context, I suppose, because otherwise I'm just making noise, which is a lot of, I think, my hosting style. So once we start to see that information, I think it's, we talked about, like I say, buying good grace with some of the community back. It's going to have that effect, regardless of what it is. It just has to be something. I think Match Engine is the biggest one. I think if we just saw a little bit of footage, a little bit of gameplay, I think that's going to go a very, very, very long way for people, because that's the crux of it. I think that's been the big thing. Obviously, shifting over to the new match engine, shifting over to a completely new way of building the game. Give us a little bit of a glimpse into what it is that we're going to be using. People are going to generally respond positively to that because it's something, isn't it? We all want a little bit of something. Is that what, if I could say to the two of you now, there's going to be an announcement tomorrow, there's going to be a roadmap, would you want Match Engine to be the first thing on there, or would you just be happy with anything?
I think Match Engine's probably the thing that most people want to see because of the switch over to the new system, and the fact that we haven't seen anything really from it so far. There's obviously a lot of promise about having a new Match Engine and having a new system for the game that makes you super excited about wanting to see this new cool look of Football Manager. And because we've not seen anything, I think it's really important that we see that in particular first. Because yes, it is great to have all the new leagues and the women's football and all of that kind of cool things that are being added to the game that are really important and really fun. But I think this is the biggest change possibly in Football Manager for a very long time, that changing the engine needs to be something that they come out and reveal first. And to be fair, I've just been rereading through the delay post that they posted back in October. And they did imply the new gameplay reveal will also move to the end of January. So there is a suggestion that at the end of January, we will get some kind of gameplay reveal. And I think that's well timed because we were looking at the numbers before we started the podcast of Steam charts and how the game is doing based on Steam. And to be fair, not a huge drop off in gameplay compared to last January. Probably about a 10% reduction. And considering it's the same game, and that would have been like the prime start of FM24, to only see 10% of the players on Steam not playing it right now is actually quite good. It was a rough December, I would say, for gameplay numbers, but we're up towards the 80,000 concurrent players on the game right now, which is kind of crazy, actually. That's really impressive to hold that kind of level consistently throughout the year. So I think it peaked at 89,000 right when the game was released, and now we're at 78, 79,000. So that's pretty damn good to be retaining that kind of thing, that kind of levels. So SI do still have the player base there. They still have the faithful that are waiting for these announcements. And I think gameplay is the right choice now or at the end of January.
Yeah.
So I think those numbers, like, I'm very happy with those. Don't get me wrong. Really, really happy to hear that, say that there has been that retention of player base, because I think from my perspective, and again, we were saying before we went live, it doesn't feel like it's that many. But I suppose one of the things that I am guilty of is that when I'm looking at things like player base, I'm looking at it from a content creator perspective. We were saying before we went live this evening, I think we counted I think I've got 4 people that I follow on Twitch that were playing FM on a Sunday evening, which would historically be a significantly higher number of people. And the majority of those people that are playing the game would generally have more people in watching the game than they currently do. So that, I suppose, that creates a snapshot, doesn't it? But it might not necessarily be an accurate one. I think I'm guilty of looking at this through the eyes of somebody who creates content involving Football Manager, rather than, as you rightly say there, Steaky, the broader player base, which still seems like in a very, very healthy position, which is really positive. Because again, and we said this earlier, it's not like FM24 has just become a bad game overnight. Far from it. It's still a very, very, very good version of Football Manager. One of my favorites of the last few years by an absolute mile. Wonderful game. But it's that, I suppose it's that hangover almost, isn't it? It's that overlap of, well, where should we be compared to where we are in terms of, we should be a couple of months into our new saves by now, or in theory we would be. So it's really, really positive to hear that they still have got that core player base is still there and playing the game on a regular basis. That's a really, really positive thing.
Yeah, I would take those numbers just with a little bit of pinch of salt. Obviously, that's just Steam numbers. I don't have console data. I don't have Epic. I don't have, Game Pass, Netflix. Obviously, there's loads of ways you can play Football Manager these days. I don't have those stats, but typically you would probably see a matching trend, although I would suggest that the PC player base is probably the most common
Yeah.
because they've had the game the longer, so they've built up that kind of love and addiction for the game for more years. But you know,
Sure.
obviously with the expansion into console and things like that, that will make a huge part of the player base now. So it'd be interesting to see those stats as well. But yeah, it's just very interesting to see that kind of not as more of a drop off as you feel. Because I agree, Rich, I felt a little bit like there's just been no one playing it and no one streaming it recently, or if they have, it's definitely reduced to what we normally see. And perhaps it's just streaming. Maybe it's not the game.
Yeah, I do think
It's
there
true.
is a pause in content creation for it. I think because again, like, because even we talk about like, oh, we're like, especially for us that are doing stuff on Twitch, we were already planning FM25 saves, and there was a little bit of, I mean, speaking just from where I'm looking at it, as soon as they announced the delay, there was a bit of me, I was like, I kind of need a new story to tell for a bit, and I can't do what I'm going to do on FM25 because then I've got nothing to do for FM25. What can I do now? And I think a few people as well. I mean, you know, just to drop one name, Murph, wonderful human being. We all love Murph. I was sat in Tom from Tarn stream, and Murph was like spitballing an idea for a brand new stream save he was going to do. And we were all kind of riffing like dumb titles that he could use through the whole thing. And it was like, oh, wicked, this could be great. He's gonna have a wicked thing that he's gonna do. And then I think on X maybe 2 weeks ago, he posted just like, yeah, I can't really want to do FM anymore. I'm kind of over it. And it's just, and I do, you know, you kind of feel like it probably is, as far as creating content goes, we're all a little bit like, there's only so many times you can rebuild a team. There's only so many times you can find the same wonder kids, go through the same process. You know, you could arguably just keep going further and further. That's why obviously things like Mad's database is really good, because you can jump into the past and it's almost like a brand new game, or even just picking up any sort of altered database off the workshop can be just a way to just freshen up the game. Even getting the, you know, the updated one, so you've got this year's, is a nice way to keep it fresh. But it's definitely, yeah, I think that has been a drop off. But it's, yeah, but the numbers of people still playing, because again, you see it in chat, people are still, oh yeah, I'm in season 56 of my Woking save or whatever, and you're like, wow, you're still going, fair play. They're still cooking away. So the playership is, yeah, still there. The core fans are still there, which is good.
Absolutely. I think it's, for a lot of people, it's just still having that, you know, stories to tell with saves, for example. Yeah, I love what you said there before, by the way, about, you know, you're streaming it. You know, FM isn't always the most important aspect of the stream, but you know, at the same time, if you are enjoying your save, if you're enjoying the stories that you're telling, then brilliant. Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. And you know, I'll use Callum as a prime example again. You know, like, clearly has found a new lease of life with that Slough save. You know, that Carabao Cup win for him was lovely. What a lovely story for him. You know, finally getting that trophy, that proper trophy lift. You know, winning proper silverware for the first time. Not that we're disparaging, you know, playoffs and, you know, lower league titles, but one of the big ones. It's a really, really nice thing. But you know, he had that save there. It was that save is built. It's overflowing with narrative opportunities, isn't it? It's such a beautiful story. You know, his relationship with the club, like the save itself. So it makes sense for him to carry on telling that story. You know, I've still got bits and pieces to do. What's the story when I'm done doing retro stuff, and I want to finish that story before FM25 comes out. So I've got that motivation. But like you say, somebody like Murphy's like, oh, I've got to come up with something new, or I've got to think of a new thing I need to do. Like we saw a post the other day, a friend of the podcast, friend of the people, you know, Gavin Brash, Gub32. He's like, not motivated to play the game anymore. I don't want to tell any new stories. You know, I'm not going to be streaming before FM25 comes out, and maybe even not after that. As with anything that you do as a hobby, even if you're somebody who, you know, creates content full time, when it becomes a job, when it becomes a chore, you have no motivation to do it. Absolutely no motivation to do it whatsoever. So I get why some people are stepping away from it, but I can also appreciate how some people, they, like I say, they've still got those stories to tell. They're still getting a lot out of the game and a lot out of their saves. So it's really nice to see those saves continuing. But again, you can understand why some people are taking a step back. You can understand why some people are a little bit less motivated now, because again, it's timescale. If you backtrack, if we go back 2 months now, it's that tail end of any game cycle, any annual release. That tail end of it is always a difficult time anyway, especially if you finish doing what you were doing early. People take breaks, and I think it's under more of a magnifying glass now because of the delay of FM25. We're now an additional 3 months into the FM24 game cycle. Nobody was really expecting to be playing it anymore, so you can understand why somebody like a Murph, for example, would be like, yeah, I just don't think I'm going to. Like Gav would step away. It makes sense. It makes sense. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah,
I do.
Yeah.
I do understand it.
I think as well, it's not just Football Manager that kind of thing happens with. There's not many games that do longer than a 1 year cycle. Let's take Minecraft, for example, who's been going for 13 years, which is unprecedented as a game. But you'll get a new update every year, and people will pick up the game when it's updated, play it for 2 months or so, sometimes even less. Even if you're a Minecraft streamer, even if that is your thing, or just someone who plays Minecraft all the time, maybe it's your main game, you'll play it for a couple of months, you'll tail off, you might download some mods to pick yourself back up into it, it'll tail off again, and then a new update will come out, and then it's a very similar game cycle with a lot of games. And I think because FM is a 1 year cycle, you don't normally see it as much, whereas now, because it's trailed over into the second year, you're seeing it, and you're seeing that kind of people trailing off, and it's much more of a longer lull this time, because the lull has started towards the end of when the game would have been ending, and there might have been a little revival of, I'm going to keep going until March, and then eventually you're like, I don't think I can for some of these things. I'm going to try and play something else. And you'll see a lot of Football Manager creators who are deferring into other games, or doing just chatting, or doing other things, or FM challenges or anything like that. Or some people have gone back and played older versions of Football Manager, which I think is absolutely a great idea. And I think it's all about adapting in the right place. And I think moving in towards FM25, you'll see it start to pick back up again. And interesting, you mentioned Tom from Tarn. His favourite Thomas the Tank Engine character is definitely Toby, because he's basically a shed on wheels, just to put that out. Just thought I'd tag that one in, just to throw us back off the rails again.
Yeah,
bravo.
It was a necessary point to make.
Yeah, mentioning Tom was ages ago as well. It's just been stuck in my head, like, Toby's a shed. Toby's a shed.
I do feel a little bit, and it's less and less of a serious thing, I suppose. But as an FM player base, I almost feel like we're, again, having that overlap and having that overrun of this game cycle, we're at a massive disadvantage compared to other people that create content around sports games, especially football games. Like, for example, look at the people that make EAFC content, for example. So many of the big FIFA and EAFC creators last year binned off the game because it wasn't very much fun in favor of playing Football Manager. Like, you had people like Nick28T doing it, Run the Foot Market was doing it. You've had people like Angry Ginge recently who have kind of like branched out into a bit of FM content as well. It almost feels like because firstly, FM is an exponentially better game than than FIFA. Like, it just is. Soz. It just is. It's a much more enjoyable experience than playing FIFA or EAFC.
Yeah.
It's almost like we don't have that. We haven't got that crash mat. We haven't got that parachute. Like, this game's terrible. Let's play Football Manager instead, because Football Manager is brilliant. Essentially, we are Pagliacci the clown. That's what we are. It's like, I'm having a really, really difficult time playing video games at the moment. It's like, well, Football Manager's in town. You should go see Football Manager. But Doctor, I am Football Manager. That's where we are. And then I put on a costume and I go out and I fight crime as a weird vigilante. It's great. I have a wonderful time doing that as well. It's tricky. Like, there's no obvious fallback for FM streamers, which is why people like Jeb and I are just punishing ourselves playing games like Elden Ring. So
Subutio. Whack out your old Subutio.
There we go.
That's what you should be doing. I just saw the little football pitch in the background. I was like, you know what? I really want to play Subbuteo all of a sudden.
I bet that there is what is it called? I've got it on Steam. It is it's Tabletop Simulator. I bet on Tabletop Simulator someone has made Subbuteo.
Oh, I hope
they must have made it on there. Let's bring that back. Yeah. Let's forget about Santa Clara and Aarhus from Mel. Let's go and fling some small plastic men around. That's the content people need.
Get your flicky fingers out. That's the move, isn't it?
It's weird you've said Subbuteo because I did see some videos. I think it was on Twitter of like there is still quite a heavy competitive Subbuteo
massively
underground thing. There's someone like scores a goal and it's just like as he's celebrating like he's just won the World Cup.
Absolutely incredible, isn't it?
The Subbuteo competitive scene is where everyone aspires to be, isn't it? Really,
It's true.
That's what we do this for. This is all a front, just so we can start.
I want to hear more about Dee's underground Subbuteo scene. This is fantastic. First rule, Subbuteo Club. You don't talk about Subbuteo Club.
Yeah.
Second rule, Subbuteo Club. Taps off. Everyone's just shirtless, underground in a bunker, flicking little plastic men. Oh yes.
If it's your first time here, you have to play.
What was the one? There was another it was kind of like they tried to improve on Subbuteo. It was a tabletop football game, and all the players, they had magnets, and then you flicked them around the pitch, and then if you press down on the player, the ball shot out. And
Michael Owen's Total Action Football is the game that you're thinking of. I got it for my birthday when I was like 10 or something. Amazing game, beautiful game,
absolutely stunning.
Of course, it was sponsored by Michael Owen.
Of course.
Yeah. Get in there. There you go. That's
come and play this fun new tabletop sports game with me, Michael.
I don't know.
I had the bravery to, and then he'd beat you at it. Then he'd just throw an apple core into a bin that was 20 feet away. Didn't give a heck about
fly off in his magic helicopter.
So ruddy, bloody brave. Never watch a film though. He doesn't watch films. Doesn't watch films. Throws apple cores. Doesn't watch films. The Michael Owen story. What a boy. There you go. Well, that's one avenue that people could absolutely go down instead of playing a little bit of FM. I will say this as we start to, I suppose, almost wrap up, our lovely segment on FM25. For me, and I don't want to sound like I'm being a Debbie Downer, but I almost at this stage feel a little bit sorry for the people who've worked so hard on bringing the women's game into FM recently, because the only reason I say that is because, as we were saying earlier, we're talking about what people want to see. And I feel that SI, as we were saying, are going to have to be very tactical about, what information is released, when it is released. I feel a little bit like the women's football side of things. There's a risk that it might almost take a little bit of a backseat in the run up to FM25, because for a portion of the player base, it was inexplicably a point of contention, which is, absolutely no reason for it. And I think people that were picking up on women's football being added to FM25 as a negative thing, give your head a wobble, get in the ocean, sort your life out. It's going to be wonderful. And I'm very, very much looking forward to it being in the game. I'm very, very much looking forward to managing in new leagues, new teams, new players. It's going to be brilliant fun, because of course it is. Women's football is excellent and it belongs in Football Manager. My concerns may be a little bit hard, but I do worry that in terms of the information we're going to see about women's football in FM25, it's going to take a little bit of a back seat because of that reaction from some of the player base. And because of the reaction to, as we were saying earlier, some posts and some information that's come out from SI about the delays, about other bits and pieces, the vitriol that some of those posts have been met with. When we look at the original FM25 roadmap, women's football was going to be the first thing that was focused on in the build up to the original release of FM25. We saw there were, excellent female creators visiting SI headquarters. You had, friend of the podcast, Monique, she went down there. Jenna, the female football manager, Wednesday fan, absolute hero. She got to go down. It felt like that at that time, that was going to be the first big thing that people saw. Wonderful. And it rightly should have been. I just do feel a little bit like there is the potential for it to almost take a little bit of a backseat in the build up to that release. And that does make me sad. It is a shame that, that there would ever be need for that to happen. And it could, in theory, become a reality. Like if they turn around tomorrow and said, right, new roadmap, first point on it, women's football, I'm all in on it. Absolutely, I am.
Mhm.
But I just don't feel like that there are going to be people that have been angry about the release, the delay. Sorry, it just doesn't. It feels like that's almost at this point now would be a bit of a gamble for them to open with, and that, as I
Yeah.
say, does make me a little bit sad.
Yeah, it almost feels like they can't win with that,
Mm-hmm.
which is, like you say, it's a massive shame because of the amount of work. Because they, as far I'm forgetting things because it's been a while, but I'm sure I read an article where they're basically saying there wasn't data on the women's game, so Sports Interactive created the data. They did all of the work to basically go, well, here's all the information. Now we can extrapolate from that and work out player ratings. The effort that must have gone into that is ridiculous. I don't think people understand how much work has to have gone into that. And then, like you say, I can't. Yeah, I do completely agree with you that there's going to be some because of a few spoiling things. There's probably going to be a bit of, right, we're going to talk about the match engine. Let's look at the user interface, women's game. And here's also this lovely new feature that we've actually included in the data hub. And you'll be like, no, forget those people. They aren't the audience. Take that, be proud of it, match engine, women's game, and like champion both of those things. And anybody who wants to be negative, go and be negative, but do it somewhere else. Take it to another community. We don't need it.
Yeah,
Football's
definitely.
toxic enough as it is.
Oh, it definitely is.
It doesn't need it.
No, we don't need that kind of thing at all, and it would be a real shame if the women's game took a bit of a backseat. I'm hoping they at least bring it towards. I do think that the match engine will be the thing that they focus on now, and the move over to the new engine. Women's football needs to be second for me. I personally am absolutely fine with it being their main thing that they go for. But you're right. I don't think that will happen. I think they'll focus on something which will galvanize more of the player base, perhaps, which is tremendously sad, but it is something which could do that. And it would be sad to see the women's take a more of a backseat than that. There was a time where I did think it might get pushed into FM26, just because of the way so many things were being removed from the game when we had the initial delays. With international football being removed, draft mode being removed, creator club being removed, lots of those things. Part of me thought, oh, they're going to say women's are going to go to FM26, which perhaps in hindsight might have been the right idea, because then you could say FM26 is all about the women, but then you're pushing back a hugely important part of the player base into another year, having been forgotten about for such a long time. I think it is right that it gets put into this game, and I do think it needs to be more of a feature, and I hope that SI keep pushing all of the hard work they've done, because it would be a shame for that to take a backseat.
You don't want to ever give, I'll say the word, because again, our wonderful friend Monique says it frequently. You don't want to give misogynists a platform, and you don't want to make them feel like they've won, because it would be an enormous shame if that happens. You can't fuel the fire, and if it isn't something that is prominently featured in those first few weeks of these reveals and this information about it, it just makes people that feel like they've said terrible things, like objectively awful things online that most people wouldn't say in real life, face to face with another human being. They go, yeah, well, I was absolutely abhorrent on the internet about women's football, and they've not really talked about it since. So morally, I win. No, you didn't. You were just awful, and people didn't want to have that argument with you. That's what it was.
Yeah.
So you just don't want to give people with those views any kind of feeling that they have been successful by being awful, because that's not what it's about at all. So I genuinely hope that it is at the forefront of everything that SI are doing in the run up to this release. I really, really, really hope that it is. But as I say, as you rightly say, Dee, that I don't want it to just get filtered in bits, and not be be a major focus of all the wonderful things we're expecting from FM25. So fingers crossed.
It's one of those things as well. I mean, I think you already follow, especially like Pompey Women's. You follow them quite a bit, don't you? Already, Steaky. Like I've since I knew like women's game was being added to FM25. It was like, right, I'm gonna pay attention more. I was even like yesterday, I think he mods for both you and I, doesn't he, Craig? Craig FS 81. Both of us will sort of simultaneously watching Man United versus women's West Brom women's FA Cup draw, which was yesterday. We got battered, but it was nice, just sort of like we were watching it sort of at the same time to kind of be like, yeah, no, I'm into this. Like I'm watching this. This is a good game to watch. But yeah, fine, we were terrible, but regardless of the football, the fact that West Brom did bad, both sides did dreadful in the FA Cup this weekend. Worth mentioning. But it was great watching it. And it's sort of one of those little things. Is like, I can't wait to manage this team in FM and try and make them as good as Man United women's or Chelsea women's, who I think are one of the better teams in England. And and just have some fun in Football Manager with my football club, in whatever capacity it is. So yeah, please don't put it on the back burner, Sports Interactive. Please keep pushing it, keep making it an important thing, because it is an important thing, and the people that want to play it will play it, and the people that won't. And that'll be it, really.
Yeah.
People that
definitely. And
don't want to manage women's football clubs.
I want to play as Portsmouth women as well, because we are doing so badly, and I really want to redeem the team. We're right at the bottom. We need to do better. I mean, the men's are much better, but yeah, our women's are rooted pretty low right now. So it'd be nice to win some games in Football Manager to make me feel better about it.
This is it. That's the danger, isn't it? It's the danger of managing the club you support in FM, because that's why I've never done Sheffield Wednesday during the season, because I just can't handle two lots of abject misery. So, although based on with the exception of yesterday, based on this season, I've got exactly what I wanted. We are doing all right. Nothing completely ridiculous has happened. We've kept hold of Super Danny Roll. He's publicly said no to joining Southampton when that job became available, which I was very, very happy about. I know Steaky probably would have been as well. So it's wonderful. Like I'm having boring. I'm having calm. I'm having perfect. That is exactly what I'm in for. As I say, with the exception of the FA Cup, because again, who really wants a cup run? Who really wants a exciting cup run? Who wants that? Not
all
me.
About the Carabao. That's the one.
It's all about the Carabao. I mean, yeah, as again, got knocked out by Coventry City yesterday on penalties, and we now get to focus on the league. That's the important thing, finishing just outside the playoffs is my prediction this season. Just outside the playoffs for Wednesday, and I'll be delighted with it. Absolutely delighted.
We get to go back to drawing ways.
Yes,
more draws, please.
So what? Playing in a competition where we actually have to win or lose? No, thank you. How dare you?
Get us out of it.
Exactly. On the subject of the FA Cup, I know Steaky, I know you've got some questions to ask us about the FA Cup.
Yeah.
But before you ask your questions, if it's okay, I'm very, very sorry. I left too much for pause there. I was pausing for dramatic effect. There is a question which was posed by Dee before we started the podcast, and I said, no, stop it now. Because we were talking about cup competitions before we went live. I'm currently playing the splendid Mad Scientist retro database, the 9495 database. And I've been looking around the competitions on here, and for my money, and again, I know I am a football fan of a certain age. Isn't nostalgia wonderful? Isn't it brilliant? I'm looking at the sponsors of the cups and in the league in this database. You say Carabao Cup, I say Coca-Cola Cup, and I say it with pride. the FA Carling Premiership, back when Carling was a desirable alcoholic, a high-end alcoholic beverage. A delicious pint of Carling lager. Scrumptious. Oh, it's rice water. It's terrible, terrible beverage. Carling, try harder. Dee, what was your wonderful, wonderful cup-based question?
Well, again, like you say, it used to be called the Coca-Cola Cup. If you could choose an alternative fizzy drink to sponsor the FA Cup, what would you be picking? What's
have an answer
bubbling in
for
your
you
mind?
immediately, and I'm sure why Callum will also approve of my answer. And I have a bottle of it right here. The Pepsi Max Cup sounds so cool. It has to be the Max version. Just the Pepsi Cup sounds kind of naff. Pepsi Max Cup, or the Pepsi Max FA Cup. The FA Cup sponsored by Pepsi Max. Max. It's the word Max. It sounds awesome, doesn't it? I think that's a really good choice.
Yeah, like EA Sports Big.
Yeah.
Pepsi Max. Anything that sounds massive is immediately better. It's like monster trucks. Immediately better than a truck.
Yeah.
Way better.
Immediately.
Way better. Yeah. Gravedigger. Yes. No, I can't name a regular truck, but I can name Gravedigger straight off the bat. Monster truck madness. Pepsi Max is a great show. I feel like Matt Berry is just somehow the correct answer. Just based off.
I've been waiting for you to answer so I could say the correct answer was Matt Berry.
Just have him there. He doesn't know what's going on. He's having a wonderful time, though. I think Pepsi Max is just far too good of an answer. Part of me says Rubicon, just because very much like when you see English footballers travel overseas. You know, we've seen Steve McLaren, haven't we? If a competition is sponsored by Rubicon, I just think that, you know, wonderful Caribbean accent is going to start slipping in to commentators, people doing the cup draws. Ironically, Steve McLaren now managing Jamaica. I think it's going to happen, isn't it? It's inevitably going to happen. So yeah, just because I want to hear, I don't know, I want to hear somebody accidentally referring to a football club as, I don't know, Bumberclart Middlesbrough when they're making the draw, just because they've had a few too many cans of mango Rubicon before they went live. It's getting, or you know, maybe one of the Levi Roots fizzy drinks. But yeah, I think Rubicon, passion fruit Rubicon, the passion fruit Rubicon. It's got to be passion fruit Rubicon cup, FA Cup, beautiful. But also, yeah, Matt Berry is objectively the correct answer, isn't it?
Matt Berry is
it's just too many.
Him just doing the announcement. Him always being the one that draws the teams out. It's like him on absolute radio. He's contractually obligated to always be the person that has to, you know, draw the teams out. It would be the best. It would be the best draw ever. It would rival Rod Stewart. It would rival it.
It's up there.
Yeah,
it'd be up
definitely.
there. 100%. Pepsi Max is objective the right answer, though, isn't it? That's
the right
fair.
answer, yeah.
Yeah,
I was going to say Lil, but they don't make it anymore.
I know, it's such a shame.
When you said
I feel bad for the Lilt
Monster,
ladies. That's what I feel bad for.
Sound good. Yeah,
if it wasn't, the Monster
Monster
Munch.
Munch.
If we're getting into the idea of crisps.
There's some pretty.
I should have really. I mean, to rival Carabao, I should really pick my beloved Monster Energy drink.
See, the Monster Cup does sound quite cool.
The Monster Cup. The Monster
Cup.
It's as good as that's massive, isn't it? It sounds huge as well.
And they could have a monster truck. You know the tiny little remote control cars that bring the balls into. They could have a monster. Gravedigger comes out and just delivers the ball into the middle of the pitch, tears up the surface.
Yes. The Honey Monster's driving it.
No, the honey monster still scares me. Those late 80s, early 90s Sugar Puffs adverts, where they go to the Sugar Puffs factory and the kids have some Sugar Puffs and then they all just turn into honey monsters. Absolutely not. That terrifies me. Ugh. Just thinking about it now makes me sad. Not the one for me.
It's him and Blobby, isn't it? The two are just like, nah, can't be dealing with Honey Monster or Mr. Blobby.
No, I'm ambivalent to Blobby. No,
it's
fine.
Blobby's terrifying.
It's the worst thing that's ever happened.
Just turn the screen off if you're ever watching Blobby and just listen to him breathe. Oh, it's horrible. It's horrible.
Yeah. It's
Nightmare
the
Fuel.
worst Pokemon. I say it all the time, but Mr. Blobby absolutely is a Pokemon. From
Oh, he definitely is. He
Gen
says his own name.
6. Says his own name. Walks
There.
around. Blobby. That is his thing. He's giant, pink, weird beast. His special move is roll out, absolutely, and just crushes everything.
Well, that's originally what Missingo was. It was they couldn't.
Missingo was meant to be.
It was originally it was Missingo. They just couldn't get the licensing from Noel Edmonds, so they had to just change it at the last minute.
Noel.
The lawyers of
Noel's
Crinkly
fault.
Bottom did not sign off on that.
Edmonds, I know. He's got a lot to answer for as Noel Edmonds, but not as much as we have to answer for these wonderful FA Cup questions from the Steak Bake.
That was good. That was good. Really smooth.
Thank you.
I really rate that.
198 episodes in. I've just about got the hang of this.
Right, very simple game for us today. You're going to work together. You're going to bounce back and forth. I'm going to give you two lives.
Okay.
And you're going to name the last 10 unique teams to win the FA Cup. That is not the last 10 FA Cup final winners, unique teams. So, for example, if I'm going to name a team that didn't win it just so that you can't do it, Newcastle United won the FA Cup last year and in 2001. They only count as one. I have 13 names written down, but I need 10 from you guys. The last 10 FA Cup winners. And it is FA Cup third round week this week. So we have been treated to a delight of FA Cup action. Can you remember the last few?
Okay. So I believe I understand the concept.
I get it. So I mean, can I get a very obvious one out of the way? Arsenal.
Yes.
Because Arsenal have won the most, I think. And
they've won it, yes, but they only count as one because
they count as one. That's going to take out a chunk of years.
Yep. Arsenal last won it in 2020 and they've won it 14 times. So they're actually fifth on the list. So there are some unique answers that have won it more recently.
So there have been more recent FA Cup winning teams count. Okay. Liverpool, I'm sure, have won it very recently.
They have indeed. They won it in 2022 and they've won it 8 times.
There we go.
Who competition.
Won it? Was it Man United that won it last year?
United have won an FA Cup very recently.
Yes, of course they did. They won it with Ten Hag. Yeah.
United. Ten Hag kept his job. It was indeed. 2024 winners, 13 total wins. Arsenal overtook them recently, and then they are clawing it back. And of course, Manchester United beat Arsenal today on penalties after going a man down. Spoilers to those that haven't watched the match of the day.
Spoiler alert!
On Tuesday night.
If you're listening to this podcast on Tuesday and you don't know the result of the FA Cup game, then that's on you. Sorry.
Yeah. Come on now.
By that rationale, then Chelsea, surely.
Yeah.
2018, they did indeed. Last win it in 2018. Yeah, also 8 as well, same as Liverpool.
There we go.
I've done these numbers
like
myself.
More recent.
So it does. It's the COVID time, isn't it? It just all absorbs into one. Anything like the 5-year build up to COVID was just like, that happened in 2020. Yeah, definitely.
Only because I heard Gary Lineker talking about it earlier in a clip. Leicester City.
Yes,
great shout.
This is one I thought you'd not get. Sorry, 2021, their only ever FA Cup win.
Another very obvious one's probably Man City.
Yes. Yeah. Okay, you've got the last 6 guys, so we are now looking for the slightly more obscure 4 prior to that. I will give you a clue that the 6 that you have named are from 2018 to 2024. The next, let's go down to the 13 that I've done. So from 7 to 13, we are looking at 2013 to 1980. So there's a bit of a range now. Quite a lot of the similar ones that you've already picked have won it multiple times in this time.
Because it's Steaky.
There's absolutely one from 2008 where his stupid team beat my stupid team in the semi-finals. And of course, that's going to be an answer because it has to be.
Of course, it's Pompey, isn't it? Of course, Pompey are in there.
No, that's one of your lives gone. It was actually a myth in a parallel universe. We did not win it. No. Yes, indeed. 8th place.
We win it
Portsmouth.
instead.
Yeah, you did.
Please.
Didn't you know? Didn't you know?
I was asleep. I don't know. I missed it all.
When Sol went up to lift the FA Cup in 2008, that is 8th place. You have
Okay.
missed one.
Okay.
In
What
that
was the
time.
just for reference? What was the earliest one that you gave us a year, didn't you? Gave us
Yes.
the earliest year on this list.
2013 is the year. Oh, the earliest.
Oh, the earliest. Sorry, yes.
1980 is 13th on the list, but I need the top 10. So it's
There's a few
1980.
names floating around in my mind, but you feel like you're about to cook, Rich. I'm gonna let you-
I've definitely got. If we're going back to the 80s, then
Mhm.
Wimbledon surely are on there. Crazy
the-
Gang.
In the top 10, Wimbledon.
Oh, in the top 10.
They are in the top 13. I will tell you that, which is the ones I've written down. However, they are 11th.
Oh,
So there is your marker.
Rats.
It is
Buttocks.
more recent than 1988, which was when
buttocks.
Wimbledon won it.
Can I talk
Sorry.
you through some ideas? No, totally valid shout. Can I talk through a couple that are
Mhm.
springing
Yeah,
to
yeah.
mind?
Yeah.
There's the few that are coming to mind because you said 80s. I don't know if it was 80s when they were prevalent. Possibly a Tottenham in the 80s. I don't know. I haven't got a clue about anything that's.
So if it's going to hit the list in the 80s, it will have to be 89. That is the only year.
Yeah, because
Okay.
that's it. Because
remaining.
Wimbledon won it in '88, didn't they? So
They did.
I don't.
I'm not gonna guess Spurs. I'm just thinking out loud. There's
No.
one that is this was it League Cup or FA Cup that Wigan?
Wigan absolutely won the FA Cup. They absolutely did. Yes, they did. Yes, they
Wigan.
did. That's
Going
a
for Wigan?
wonderful shout.
2013, guys. Well done. Really good shout. Wigan Athletic. Definitely one of the ones that you forget about because it was a
Mhm.
weird time
Mm.
of crazy things happening in that club, and they got relegated in the same season. I do
They
believe
did, but they beat
So-
City in the final. They beat the heavily.
had-
Was it heavily favoured City in the final?
They had the
I think they
Belgian
did, yeah.
the Belgian manager Roberto Martinez.
they did 1-0. They won 1-0.
Famous Belgian Roberto Martinez. I love how that's canon. He's gone, but it's still canon. Did Middlesbrough do it at some point? There were definite cup finals for
Oh,
Middlesbrough in the mid
yeah.
to late 90s, in like the Juninho Ravanelli kind of era.
Yeah.
I feel like Middlesbrough, but I can't remember if they were beaten finalists, but I remember them being in and around it at that point. But again, I don't.
Well, let's just throw random names out there and see if any of them, not to guess, is just talking it out.
Yeah, we're talking
Yeah.
out, Steaky. This isn't.
Yeah, we're
this
talking
isn't.
it out.
Yeah, yeah.
Steve.
These aren't
We're
We're
guesses.
conferring.
This
You
is,
can't hear this for the moment. Cover
Okay,
your ears.
yeah.
We'll take your headphones off.
La 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 la.
So, a few teams that are springing to mind, Rich.
Mhm.
When was the last time Everton won it?
Everton are one of them. That's I can see the kit. I can see early 90s Everton kit, and I can see somebody with the FA Cup on their head. I had it it was in a Premier League picture book I had from like the mid 90s, and they had a picture of an Everton player with the FA Cup on his head in the book.
Oh.
I'm sure they did. I think Everton are a very, very good shout. I think Everton are one of them.
Do you want to send Everton?
I mean, if we're wrong, it's on me. So I'm
No,
Steaky,
because this is
No,
on
no.
me if it's wrong.
No, it's
You've got-
absolutely not.
You've got one
Look how-
more wrong answer before you would then be out for another
Okay,
one.
so
this-
essentially we get squid gamed on the third incorrect answer.
yes.
Okay.
So if you do want to send one now, you would get at least one more chance to
Everton.
continue your.
Let's do
process.
it.
Everton, send it.
Yes, and Everton.
Yeah.
We're guessing Everton.
I'm sorry, guys, but they won it in 1995, which makes them the ninth team on this
He's-
list.
He's baited me there.
I did.
He
He's had me
has.
pants down there. I didn't. I
Again.
didn't enjoy that.
What I would
Um,
say, though, if they are the ninth team on this list, that does mean it is a team before Everton and after the Crazy Gang that won.
So
the
before
FA Cup.
Everton,
We're
after
looking for
Wimbledon.
between 1988 and 1995 here.
Are any
know when-
teams coming to mind? You said Borough as a potential.
I said Borough, but I think they're later than Everton when they hit their cup form. And I can't remember if they were beaten, if it was like a fair, if they're beat. I think they were beaten finalists. I think in my head,
Go on.
maybe I'm thinking Middlesbrough because I think similar because the Wednesday they made it to the League Cup and FA Cup final around 92, 93 and lost both to Arsenal.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Middlesbrough is a similar kind of thing. I think they made it to multiple cup finals and didn't win any of them.
Yeah. Okay. One. I mean, I'm just
clue about Middlesbrough.
Do we
Little
need
clue
a
about
clue
Middlesbrough? Just because it's fun to remember, they
Go
did
on.
win the Carabao Cup
I won the
in
Carabao
2004 with
that's
Gareth Southgate in that team.
see, I'm thinking
Fun.
like Juninho, Fabrizio Ravanelli kind of era Middlesbrough. So I think around then.
He's
Okay.
throwing out a name. Again, it's annoyingly, I've got two names going around in my mind. I've got Villa and Forest. I don't remember when Forest were good, but they were in the past. And the other one is Villa because I don't know why. I've got some random thought in my mind of Villa doing it.
Villa definitely won a Carabao around that kind of time.
That could be what I'm thinking.
They definitely won a Carabao around that kind of time. I remember watching that on the telly with my brothers, and I got sent out to make cups of tea, and both times I had to go make a brew. Villa scored.
Good.
That's deep. That's deep in there.
Shall we rule out some teams?
Yeah.
Right. West Brom.
We know Newcastle aren't on there because Steaky made a point of referencing Newcastle.
Yeah, it's been about 50 years since they've last won it. They are
a
bit in the Spurs group where people always mock them for having never won a trophy. They are that kind of level.
I don't think it's Spurs.
No.
I don't because they've got that Carabao from the mid to late 2000s.
Yeah, I think that was the last proper one that they won, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't remember a Spurs trophy in the 90s, even in the late 80s. But then you've got
Would you like the exact year?
I was going to ask you for this earlier.
Is this the last one we're missing, Steaky?
Yes, you are missing number 10, and I will give you the exact year.
We'll take the year then. We'll take the year.
It was 1991.
I'm out. I was 2. I've got no idea. This is all on you, big man.
Oh Christ, that's terrifying, isn't it?
But any teams you say, I'll you reason them out with me.
There are two teams that are sticking out in my head, and that's Forest and West Ham. But I don't know why West Ham.
You said Forest and Villa then. They're the two teams.
Sorry, when you were just talking about hats or makeup or whatever it was you were talking about, I was thinking of football clubs.
Yeah.
Shall we? Because again, it was post them being very good in Europe, obviously. Like Forest, not West Ham. But again, around that early 90s time, that's a very, very good Forest team, isn't it?
Were they still like in a bit of a hangover of being good?
That's like decent. That's decent Forest side. Like, have you got a young Roy Keane coming through? You've got like Stuart Pearce kicking about.
I mean, I like it. We've both said it, and we've argued. Should we go? Wrong, we've got one more life. So yes,
if it's wrong, we've got one more life, and then it could be literally any other English football club ever. Should we go Nottingham Forest, Steak?
You're so unlucky, guys. They are the losing finalists in 1991. So it is wrong. It is not Nottingham Forest. Which means you now have to get your name.
We've got to get it.
Hang on.
Who did they lose to in the 1991 FA Cup final?
I don't know who was good in the 90s.
I will also
Man
tell
United.
you,
that was it.
The team that won it in 1991 also won it in 1981 and 1961. They like to
Spurs, because Spurs won it in all the 1 years.
Is it actually Tottenham?
Is that what you go for?
I don't know. I can't gauge. Part of me,
Rich,
I don't want to be. Part of me just wants to take Steaky off the screen because I'm reading too much into his face.
Rich,
Yeah.
hear me out
Yeah.
on this.
Go on.
We've done well. We've done really well. We got
I
9
think
out of
we've
10.
done. I don't know about you, Dee. I think I've done significantly better than I thought. We were going
So
to.
much better. Outside of like 4 or 5 of them, I thought I hadn't got a clue, and then just memories happen. If Spurs is wrong,
Mhm.
then Spurs is wrong. And we can hold our heads high knowing that we got 9 out of 10, and we can spend the next couple of weeks harassing Spurs fans in our chats for not winning the FA Cup.
Yeah.
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 I don't know about holding your head up high.
That
but
seems reasonable.
We can hold it higher than we would have if we got 8 out of 10.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Send it.
Tottenham, just purely based on
Tottenham.
that clue that you gave at the end there with the 81 and 61 Spurs.
I will tell you that in 13th place, if you'd said West Ham, you'd have been 13th, so you'd have been wrong. In 12th, probably not a name that I would have expected to see around. Coventry City.
No, I knew Cov because I have worn one of the FA Cup winners' medals from that FA Cup year. My old next door neighbour. He played a right centre back for Coventry City in the late 80s. Big Greg Downs.
You could have said Crystal Palace. No mention of them. They were finalists in 1990.
Win in
clue.
1990?
We're pretty close here. However, the winners of the FA Cup in 1991 were Tottenham Hotspur. Well done. And surprisingly, it's not their last trophy. They won the Carabao Cup in 2008, but they don't win many trophies. Apparently, they've won 8 FA Cups though, so not bad. Not bad.
Can we?
Well done, guys. Well done.
I don't
Really
say
good.
this lightly. Arguably the best day of my life.
Yeah.
This is massive.
This has been the
I
best
did not
thing that's
think we'd
happened
get
in
Everton.
FM24.
Yeah, oh,
This has been the best thing that's happened all of FM24.
Yeah. Definitely.
Oh, superb.
And when we rerun this quiz when FM25 comes out, you will remember all the answers, right?
Exactly
I
that.
still don't know the top 10 goal scorers of the Premier League. Couldn't tell you any of them, or clean sheets, or any of it. It's all gone.
Any useless information.
David James. It's David James.
It's always
Scorers
David
is David James.
No. Clean
Who
sheets.
knows?
I'd be impressed if it was David James, though.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I know.
Well done, guys.
Oh.
Well done.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was lovely. I enjoyed that, despite what my face probably said throughout the last 10, 15 minutes of podcast. Remembering.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful stuff. Wonderful stuff. Right, I just never win quizzes on here. Like I never do well in trivia rounds. So this is a big moment for me. Big moment for me. I mean, that to me, I feel like we can't top that. I don't think we can go any further. So I don't know about the two of you. That very much feels to me like a podcast.
Yeah, but not FMT. You won something. It seems weird. It seems weird.
I know.
It feels like a podcast to me. We're just
Does feel
checking it then, and it definitely,
Yeah.
it's definitely got the.
Got to go around. You've got to check the exhaust, kick the tires, and then see what happens.
Just checking the load
Oh.
bearing of this podcast, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah.
Pretty weighty.
Yeah, this picture behind me, if that comes down, the whole podcast just collapses.
Whole thing.
Yeah, whole thing. Now, at the time of recording, I'm going to go out on a limb and say, fellas, if you're listening to this on Patreon on Monday, there is a rumor that the network game may well be back tonight, or at the time of recording, tomorrow night.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it is. I hope
Or
it
if,
is.
or
I
if it's
think- I
out in
think we're all
public
in.
last night.
Oh, yeah. If you're listening to this publicly on Tuesday, it happened yesterday.
Wasn't
Go
it
watch
good
the
when that
VOD.
thing happened?
That thing. What you mean?
Can't
That thing
believe
being
Dan
you
bottled the
winning the
league.
league.
I'm going to
Bottled
bottle the
it. He
league.
bottled it. He bottled it.
I'm
Definitely
absolutely
bottled
going to bottle the
But
league.
this is the thing. This is the good narrative about this. Because if you bottle the league, D, then theoretically the person that would win the league would be Steaky, who is second in the league at the moment. So
Definitely not.
anything could happen.
You're doing what I'm doing, Steak. I'm saying definitely not, and in my mind, I'm thinking, mine. Both hands. But no, I'm not going to win it. No, it's going to be fine. Me and Alexander Isak just cooking away.
polishing up that replica Premier League, which is going to lift tomorrow. Imagine that. Yeah, network game back tomorrow. So come and hang out with us tomorrow at the time of recording, tomorrow evening, Monday night, and see how we get on. I'm excited. I'm very much looking forward to it. It's been a hot minute since we've played, but it's going to be good. It's going to be good. Exciting end to the season. Please come and spend time with us doing it tomorrow. Steakty Bakety, if people wanted to watch you streaming it tomorrow, where could they watch you doing so?
Probably on all you guys' channels and the multi-stream. That would be a good place to come. But you could also come to twitch.tv/the_steak_bake. That would be a lovely thing to do. And also make sure you check out Jebbaroo as well, because he's been streaming some crazy games recently, particularly ones that Rich don't like. And also he'll be in the network as well. So check out Jebbaroo.
He will. Now, you say I don't like it, Steaky. It's very, very slowly growing on me.
Yeah.
Is
You're going
what's
to be
happening.
an addict. You're going to be addicted.
I still have. Here's the problem. I'm every day I play it, I managed to chop up a slightly larger, more difficult thing. I haven't done a boss yet, but I've got a giant. I got a big bear the other day, and I felt really, really good about myself. And then I was cooking the Sunday lunch today. I put YouTube on. It went, oh, recommended videos. Oh, here's a guy beating Elden Ring without getting hit by anything ever, and he makes it look so easy. I'm like, oh, you're the worst. Like, imagine being good at this game. So I watched that for 20 minutes, and I was like, no, I'm out. I'm never going to be that good. Nor do I want to be. Nor do I want to be.
Souls games are the toxic ex-girlfriend of computer games.
Yes, they are.
You just keep going back to them, going, "Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be better this time." No, it won't.
No,
It'll be awful. You'll hate if you feel awful after you've been there.
It won't. It won't. I've screen recorded it just as motivation for me, because I will finish it. But there's a clip from the end of wonderful streamer Ray, formerly Ray Narvaez Jr., formerly Brown Man. He streamed it many, many years ago, and when he beat the final boss, he beat the original Dark Souls, or the Dark Souls remastered he played pre-Elden Ring, and he beat the final boss of the game, and within 10 seconds of killing the final boss, the game was uninstalled on his Xbox. He was like, I feel nothing. And that's my motivation. It's that it's on my phone just so I can just press play, and he's like, no, gone, done, never again. And that's what I need. That's what I need to make me happy. Dee, if people would like to watch you playing the network game, if they'd like to watch you doing your wonderful things with Aarhus, if they'd just like to watch you doing things on the internet in general, where can they find you doing those things?
Well, you can come and hang out over on Twitch at twitch.tv/dboyplays. Where can people find you, Rich?
Yeah.
Specifically
Nice
on
try,
the internet.
the government. Twitch.tv/Rich Owens FM. That's where I am. You can come watch. Come have a good time. We have an adequate time.
It's a great time.
Semi-regular basis.
It's a
What's
great
not
time.
to like?
Come tell Rich your favourite Thomas the Tank Engine character.
Please do. If anybody says Donald and Douglas, then
you're Scottish.
Then you're clearly Scottish.
Yeah. What if someone pulls out a Clarabelle?
It's more of a carriage than a train.
Yeah.
But of Annie and Clarabelle was clearly the better of the two carriages.
Wow.
Definitely
come at me, Annie stands. Come at me in the comments. Wonderful. Thank you both for joining me today. It's been an absolute pleasure. It's lovely to have you back, Steaky.
Thank you, buddy.
We've missed you enormously. I'm glad you were here. Dee, I'm also glad you were here, but you've been here more recently than Steaky, so I didn't feel the need to make a big deal out of it. But
I've missed him.
Yeah, I've missed you all.
We all have. And thank you, the audience, for watching, for listening. However you are consuming this podcast, we massively appreciate it. You are good people. Thank you for hanging out with us, and we will see you on the next episode of Football Manager Therapy. Take care. Love you lots. Bye-bye.